Have you ever felt that itch for adventure, that pull towards the unknown, even when you have everything you could possibly want? Well, let me tell you about a man who knew that feeling all too well. His name was Sinbad, and he was a legend. Our story begins in the heart of the magnificent city of Baghdad, a bustling metropolis of trade, art, and stories. Here lived Sinbad, a merchant whose wealth was the talk of the town. His warehouses overflowed with silks, spices, and treasures from every corner of the known world. He lived in a palace, surrounded by luxury, feasting with friends, and enjoying the fruits of his labor. By all accounts, he had it made, but deep within him, a restless spirit stirred. The quiet life of a wealthy merchant wasn't enough. The stories he heard from sailors in the port, tales of distant lands, strange creatures, and hidden treasures, called to him. The scent of the sea breeze was more intoxicating than the finest perfumes in his home. Sinbad wasn't just a merchant, he was an adventurer at heart. And so, despite the comfort and safety of his life in Baghdad, he decided to answer the call of the ocean once more. He gathered his finest goods, chartered a sturdy ship, and assembled a brave crew ready to trade his peaceful existence for the thrill and danger of the high seas. This was the beginning of the first of his 7 legendary voyages. With the sails full and spirits high, Sinbad's ship cut through the waves, leaving the familiar shores of Baghdad far behind. The journey was prosperous at first. They sailed from port to port, trading goods and amassing even greater profits. Days turned into weeks, and the open ocean became their home. One day, a lookout spotted land. It wasn't on any of their charts, a small, beautiful island covered in lush, green vegetation. It looked like a paradise, a perfect place to rest and replenish their supplies of fresh water. Eagerly, Sinbad and his crew lowered their boats and rowed ashore. The ground was soft and springy under their feet, unlike any island they had ever set foot on before. They explored the strange, verdant landscape, marveling at its beauty. Deciding to prepare a meal, the sailors gathered some driftwood and built a fire. As the flames grew, they started to cook their food, laughing and sharing stories. But then, something terrifying happened. The island began to tremble. The ground beneath them shook violently, throwing them off their feet. This was no island. They were standing on the back of a colossal sea creature, a monstrous whale of unbelievable size that had been sleeping for so long it had become overgrown with plants and trees. Awakened by the heat of their fire, the great beast began to stir and dive back into the depths of the ocean. Panic erupted. The ship, anchored nearby, quickly cut its lines and sailed away, fearing the monster's wrath. Sinbad, caught completely by surprise, was thrown into the churning water as his island disappeared beneath him. He was alone, lost in the vast, unforgiving sea, with only a floating piece of wood from their cooking fire to cling to. For days and nights, he drifted, at the mercy of the currents, his hope slowly fading. Just when he was about to give up, he washed ashore on a real island, exhausted but alive. He was soon rescued by a passing ship, the very same ship that had abandoned him, and with his goods recovered. He finally made his way back to Baghdad, shaken but richer in both treasure and experience. You might think that after nearly being drowned by a living island, Sinbad would have settled down for good, and for a while he did. He enjoyed his wealth, shared his incredible story, and lived a life of ease. But the call of adventure is a persistent one. Before long, The tranquility of Baghdad felt less like a comfort and more like a cage. Sinbad's restless heart yearned for the sea again. So, he prepared for his second voyage. This time, he found himself on another deserted island, accidentally left behind by his crew while he was sleeping. As he explored his new lonely home, he stumbled upon something truly astonishing. In the middle of a vast plain stood a gigantic white dome, smooth and impossibly large. It was so big he couldn't even see the top. Curious, he walked around it, trying to find a door or an opening, but there was none. As the sun began to set, a shadow fell over the island, a shadow so immense it blotted out the light. Sinbad looked up and saw a bird of terrifying size, larger than any creature he had ever imagined. He instantly realized what he had found. The giant dome was not a building, it was an egg, and the bird was its mother, the legendary ROC. A daring plan formed in Sinbad's mind. Unraveling his turban, he used the long cloth to tie himself securely to the ROC's massive leg as it settled down to roost on its egg. He hoped the bird would carry him off the island to a more civilized land. He held on for dear life as the ROC took flight at dawn, soaring higher and higher into the clouds. The bird flew for what felt like an eternity before finally descending. But it didn't land. It landed in a deep, dark valley, surrounded by impossibly steep cliffs. The ROC dropped a huge serpent it was carrying and flew away, leaving Sinbad stranded once again. But as his eyes adjusted to the dim light, he saw something that made his heart leap. The floor of the valley was not covered in rocks, but in diamonds. Countless diamonds, sparkling and glittering, some as large as his fist. The valley was also crawling with giant, deadly snakes, but Sinbad had faced danger before. He remembered a local trick. Merchants would throw large chunks of meat into the valley. Eagles, attracted by the meat, would swoop down, and sometimes diamonds would get stuck to the sticky fat. The eagles would then carry the meat back to their nests, high on the cliffs. Acting quickly, Sinbad filled his pockets with the largest diamonds he could find, then strapped a large piece of meat to his back and lay down. Just as planned, a huge eagle swooped down, grabbed the meat and Sinbad with it, and carried him out of the Valley of Serpents and up to its nest. He managed to scare the bird away and, with a fortune in diamonds, eventually found his way to a trade route and back to Baghdad, wealthier than he had ever dreamed possible. Sinbad's voyages were far from over. His thirst for adventure and fortune led him on 5 more incredible journeys, each one more perilous and fantastical than the last. On one such voyage, his ship was wrecked in a storm, and he washed up on an island inhabited by a strange, silent old man. Taking pity on the frail figure, Sinbad offered to carry him across a stream. But this was no ordinary old man. Once on Sinbad's shoulders, the creature, known as the Old Man of the Sea, wrapped its legs around his neck and refused to let go. Day and night, the malevolent being rode on Sinbad's back, forcing him to do its bidding, kicking and prodding him into submission. Sinbad became his slave, carrying him around the island, his hope dwindling with each passing day. But Sinbad was a survivor. He noticed the Old Man of the Sea had a fondness for fermented grape juice. So, Sinbad cleverly made a strong batch of wine. He offered it to his captor, who drank it greedily and soon fell into a drunken stupor. Seizing his chance, Sinbad was finally able to shake the creature off and escape its cruel grasp. On another journey, He was captured by cannibals, but managed to escape, only to discover a vast elephant graveyard. The ground was littered with the tusks of countless elephants, a treasure trove of ivory. Instead of hunting the majestic animals, he had learned about this place from the elephants themselves, who seemed to lead him there after he showed them kindness. He gathered a huge amount of ivory without harming a single creature, proving that sometimes compassion can lead to greater rewards than greed. He encountered giant apes, was sold into servitude, discovered a river of jewels, and faced down monstrous sea creatures. Each adventure tested his courage, his wit, and his will to survive. He was buried alive with his deceased wife, according to a bizarre local custom, only to escape through a network of tunnels. He saw fish that could fly and lands where the people lived in the trees. Each time he returned to Baghdad, his tales grew more unbelievable, and his wealth grew more immense. After 7 long, harrowing, and utterly extraordinary voyages, Sinbad finally decided to hang up his captain's hat for good. He was older now, and while his spirit was still adventurous, he was also wiser. He had seen the wonders of the world and faced its greatest dangers. He had been shipwrecked, marooned, and left for dead more times than he could count. He had battled monsters, escaped cannibals, and outwitted ancient evils. He had amassed a fortune so vast it was difficult to comprehend, but he had also learned that wealth was not the most valuable treasure. He had learned the importance of courage, the power of quick thinking, and the virtue of perseverance. He understood that true wealth lay in the experiences he had gathered and the stories he could tell. Back in his magnificent home in Baghdad, surrounded by his friends and family, Sinbad was no longer restless. He found a new kind of adventure in sharing his tales. People from all over the city would gather to listen, captivated, as he recounted his voyages. He spoke of the living island that was a giant whale, of the colossal Rock, and the Valley of Diamonds, of the terrifying Old Man of the Sea, and the elephant graveyard. His stories were a source of wonder and inspiration, a testament to the incredible possibilities that lie beyond the horizon. Sinbad the sailor, once a simple merchant, had become a living legend, his name synonymous with adventure itself. He had lived a life fuller and more exciting than 100 ordinary men, and now, in the peace and comfort of his home, he could finally rest, content with the knowledge that he had truly lived, and his tales would live on, passed down through generations, forever inspiring others to dream of their own great adventures. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more legendary stories.